Now, for many parents dealing with a cancer diagnosis, it's a conversation that they understandably dread. But how do you tell your children that you have a serious illness?
In her statement, the Princess of Wales said it had taken her and William time to explain the news to George, Charlotte and Louis, and to reassure them that she's going to be OK.
And our next guests know just how hard those conversations can be after both being diagnosed with cancer. Dr Philippa is joining us alongside Deidre to share their personal experiences and advice. Dr Philippa, I'm going to start with you first of all. You were aged 39, I think, when you discovered you had bowel cancer. What was that moment like for you? And how did you process it to then tell your children?
I don't think I truly did.
No.
I think I saw my cancer on the screen in front of me, and I turned to the surgeon and I looked at him, and as his eyes came up to meet mine, I knew. And my children were the second thought in my head. They're absolutely the second thought in my head. You have to excuse me if I cry too. And I wasn't with my husband at the time, and I rang him and I told him, and I said, wait for me, we have to do this together.
Yes.
And I think that we often talk about denial as being a bad thing, but sometimes it's a little bit self-protecty. And it helps you just a little bit to be able to do hard things in a way. And often people talk about waiting or hiding and protecting children, and actually children always know. They always know something's going on. But I was having surgery within a few days.
Oh, wow, it turned
and
around
I was
that quickly.
going to be away for a period of time and had been told that I wouldn't be well enough to see the children for a period of days within that. So we went home, and my children were 4, 7 and 11.
So similar ages.
Similar ages.
Kate and Williams.
And sat at the top of the stairs and said, there's something bad growing in Mummy's tummy and the doctors are going to cut it out. And waited. Because the questions are going to come back, right? So you don't need to give too much. So we waited. And children do what children do. So the 4-year-old says, who's taking me to nursery? And the 7-year-old comes bounding over to give me a hug and then recoils. Oh, you can't catch that, can you, Mummy? Oh, you're going to lose your hair. And so questions come. And that's OK, because I think that we have to be honest and open. And that meant that no question was unanswerable. So when they said, are you scared, Mummy? Yes. I am scared it's going to hurt. And the doctors are going to give me medicine to take that away.
Yeah.
And the hardest question is, are you going to die, Mummy?
Yeah.
And the truth is that I said, I'm doing everything that I can to not.
Yes.
But I never promised my children, and I still never promise my children. But when you talk to your children like that, what I truly, truly feel is that then allows them to say, I'm scared too.
Yes.
So that when they're asking you, they're sort of asking for permission to express those opinions and fears. And we can be scared together, because I can't make it better.
Yes.
But I can sit with you in that. And as a patient, that's often what I needed. I didn't need you to say it's going to be all right. I just needed you to sit with me in it.
Yes.
And that's what I think that we can do as parents.
Gosh,
wow, that was brilliantly put.
and
oh
to
my
relive that,
goodness.
there's some tissues there.
Philippa,
And I
thank
did ask
you.
my kids permission
share
before
this.
talking about it today.
Yeah.
And what they said was, that's just our lives now, Mummy. And whilst that shows the amazing resilience of kids, that's still really sad. Because I think that all of us who've had cancer wish that that wasn't their reality.
Of course. Deidre, it's never a conversation that anyone would ever want to have. Your family were more grown up, your children, when you had to tell them about your diagnosis. But when you hear how Philippa dealt with it, I mean, that's just an extraordinarily sort of brilliant way of putting it to the children to help them understand.
Being that open, and you're right, and it's using simple language, isn't it, as well? It's appropriate for the age. And I think that is really clear, and just giving them space for their feelings. And I think walking that balance between not wanting to scare them unnecessarily, but if you don't actually know if there's going to be a good outcome, you mustn't promise there is. There's such a temptation to try, not in your case, but generally, to try and protect children from the worst. We tend to say, but it's all going to be all right. And actually, if you don't know it's all going to be all right, You shouldn't say it is, because the thing is, if children learn they can't actually trust you to tell the truth over such amazingly important issues in life and death, they'll never trust you or the other adult, the adult world again. So it's terribly important to stick as close as you can to the truth, but stay quite in the near future. I mean, so don't try and start talking about tests that are going to happen in 3 months' time or something. For children, it's enough about what's going to happen next week, isn't it?
That's something, though, you were saying that your husband experienced when he was a child. He wasn't told what was happening.
Did. I mean, it was just so... Oh, God, it's going to make me cry. It's one of those big issues that... So my husband's father had actually... He died.
How old was he?
My husband was 11 at the time. And he spent all night praying for his father to live, and he was actually already dead, and no one had told him. And I would say my husband basically, at that point, lost his faith in authority, the adult world. He never trusted anybody, in figures of authority, ever again. It was just so fundamental.
Philippa, have you? I mean, when you reflect back, and everybody's only trying to do the best they can, is there anything you wish you'd done differently when you first had to tell them, or you went through that process?
I don't think that regrets about things like that are very helpful, because we are where we are and we have to sort of deal with where we are. I wish that there was more understanding of what it is like to be a young adult and the needs of a young adult with cancer. The thoughts that I had as a 39-year-old are likely to be very different to an 81-year-old.
Sure.
Worries about work and money and families and fertility and premature menopause, and all of these things, they're not necessarily talked about in the same way. When it comes to my kids, though, I think that an understanding from other people what kids might do can be helpful. So, for example, my youngest was only 4 and in the nursery would... Instead of playing mummies and daddies, she started playing, mummy's going to hospital and my mummies are dying. Aww. And other mothers and other children found that really difficult.
Of course, yeah.
She was role-playing her life.
She was
That's what
processing,
children do, right? And that actually is a really healthy way of her managing that.
Yes.
But because there isn't a general understanding of what it is like to be a young adult with cancer, other people find that quite difficult. Yeah. And so to have to deal with your own emotions and your family's emotions and other people's can be quite a challenge. And that's why, actually, I think that for all the sort of observation of what's going on must be incredibly, incredibly difficult for the royal family. But it's made us have this conversation, which means that other people are talking about it and thinking about things in a way that perhaps they haven't. And that's why it's so incredibly powerful, what she's done.
I think it's good in this country. We've got some really brilliant charities. So, in fact, Philippa told me earlier about one which is for these younger adults, isn't it, called Trek Stock? And there's Macmillan Cancer Support, obviously. And I was just up there. They're all going up on our website today, because I think it's really important, not only if you're a family affected by cancer, but if you know someone who's got cancer, had a cancer diagnosis, look at these charities. They've got fantastic information on their websites, and it's really worth, getting into the idea of what's actually OK and what's not OK. If you're in a deeply troubled situation like having a cancer diagnosis, and I know when my husband was dying, I found it really hard. People keep asking you questions. They're meaning to be friendly, they're WhatsApping you. Don't ask questions, though, because you're in such a stressed situation. You don't want to be having to keep everybody else informed. Offer support. Say, I'm really thinking of you. That's as much as you need to hear.
That is a lovely thing to hear as well. And we haven't got a lot of time, but your kids were great in your recovery as well. So Dr Sakura was telling us getting out and walking is really, really important. And that you found that too.
Kids want to help. They want to do something. They want to be involved. And I didn't want to be a parent that was saying no to everything. So can we play in the garden? You don't want to be the one saying no, no. So what can they do? Well, today I need to walk for 10 minutes 3 times a day, and tomorrow I might need to be able to manage half an hour or whatever. And they'd come with. Amazing. So you'd have one on a bike, one on a scooter, toddle along.
And time together as well, which is really
and
special,
again,
isn't it?
staying positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
As the doctor said. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Deidre.